we're going to be going over rhythm and repetition. What exactly are they? Repetition works with patterns to make the work of art seem active. It creates unity within the art. So when you repeat elements over and over, it creates unity because you have those parts of the artwork that sort of match with one another. Like a checkerboard, right? You have those squares that repeat over and over, so then it creates that sense of unity because you have those repeating elements that relate to one another. Rhythm is created when one or more elements of design are used to create organized movement, so it creates a mood like music. It kind of adds that extra little oomph that repetition needs, right? Repetition on its own is very, very boring. So you need that rhythm in there in order to make it flow and in order for it to work. Think of it as like the beat of a song or repeated chords, right? If you think of a song, right, there are elements that repeat. There are elements that happen over and over and over, but that makes it catchy. And because all of those elements work together to create a stable rhythm and a stable pattern that make the song very, very interesting. So you need all those extra bits in there, and the rhythm is what adds your interest. There actually isn't a lot to say about repetition. What is there is there. That's basically all that repetition is. It works with patterns to make the work of art seem active, right? That's all that repetition is. However, there are different types of rhythm. So the first type of rhythm we're gonna be talking about is random rhythm. So random rhythm appears to have no discernible or calculated pattern, right? So if you think about falling snow, crowds of people, beach rocks, etc., those have like no real discernible patterns. So it either has no discernible or exact pattern, or it's very, very large and complex. The piece that we're going to be talking about is Golconda by Rene Magritte. If you look at the people that he's actually painted, their positioning has no real pattern. They all look exactly the same. They're all pointing in different directions. It really is like Raining Men. Right? That's really what we're looking at. If you kind of take a step back, look at it, you can actually see a pattern. If we really zoom out that far, it looks almost hexagonal. It's like you have little triangles layered on top of each other, right? But because if you look closer, it's layers upon layers of these men going farther and farther into the background. And these layers create that sense of randomness, but it's calculated in a much more complex way. So regular rhythm is rhythm that holds a perfect pattern. It follows the same intervals over and over, and the pattern is easy to spot. Like honeycombs. Think of a grid, or like a picket fence, a white picket fence. You have the same wooden planks that kind of repeat over and over. That's a regular rhythm, something that follows an exact pattern. It's the same thing, just over and over and over. It's easy to spot, it's easy to create, but it is also the most boring. The piece that we're going to be using for this one, it is actually called Untitled by Donald Judd, done in 1967. This piece is meant to be mechanical. How it's displayed changes based on the height of the building it resides in, right? So depending on where this piece is displayed, you need to recalculate how all of these squares are going to be separated from one another. They're all made of metal. It creates this perfect regular rhythm. Each box is spaced perfectly evenly, and that's basically how it's meant to be. He wanted to create an art piece that was like as non-organic as possible. So alternating rhythm is when you repeat more than one element in a pattern, right? So again, if we go back to a checkerboard, it has a 1-2-1-2 pattern. You go white square, black square, white square, black square. Why is that so hard to say? Right? And that's a 1-2-1-2 type pattern. It's basically a regular rhythm with more complexity. You added on a bit of an extra layer of complexity onto your regular rhythm. So it helps break up the monotony of what regular rhythm is, but it still has the possibility of being boring. You gotta add some extra stuff on top of it to make it not as boring. This is Lizards by M.C. Escher, done in 1942. So this one follows a 1-2-3-2-1 type pattern, right? So if we start from the white lizard, it's like 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? So it kind of goes back and forth between them depending on how you look at it. They still follow a very, very alternating pattern. You can immediately tell from just looking at it that there is a pattern here, right? And that's basically like what both alternating and regular rhythm are. You gotta be able to look at it and go, oh yeah, there's a pattern. I can see it right there. It's still very mechanical, but by comparison to regular rhythm, it's still a lot more interesting. He added in those bits of detail. There's more to look at. Flowing rhythm is rhythm caused by following bends and curves. Sand is a good example of flowing rhythm. You see all those like rolling hills, the dunes that kind of move, right? Waves, they follow like a nice curvy pattern over and over hills. So that's what we think when we think of flowing rhythm. It's usually found in nature, and oftentimes within graphic design, it's mimicked for a natural and calming flow or a natural calming energy. You'll do that a lot within art as well. The natural flowing bends feels very calming, very relaxing. This is Helixikos number 3 by Hans Håkansson, done in 1969. You feel your eyes moving along or following the movement of the sculpture. It also helps that it has like these ridges in it. So it feels almost like a staircase. Your eyes are kind of following it, almost like ram's horns. right? And your brain automatically follows whatever curves they're moving in, right? This creates that flowing rhythm. So progressive rhythm is repeating a pattern but changing an element bit by bit as the pattern continues. So we start with a very, very small ring, and as they grow outwards, the ring starts to get slowly bigger and bigger and bigger. That's progressively growing the pattern that's present. If we think about like shape or form, it can get larger to show perspective or movement. Or if we think of like color or value, some things can grow lighter to show that they're closer to a light source, or that they're coming closer to the main subject or getting farther away from the main subject, right? Depending on where the light source comes from. When you have progressive rhythm, it's just something that is slowly changing. It could be a slow change, it could be a fast-paced change, right? It's a change that happens that shows a pattern of some kind. Maybe it's a shift in mood. Maybe it's a shift in area. Maybe it's just to show a growing like emotion. Maybe it's to show, you know, so on and so forth. Maybe it's to progress something. Like in a very literal sense, maybe it is literally just to progress someone further into the piece. You can use progressive rhythm as a form of leading lines. If you drew a sidewalk, right, there's like little sections of concrete that get smaller as they go farther into the distance, right? That's progressive rhythm because they get smaller as you go further into perspective, but it's also leading your eyes to progress throughout the piece to go to a single point, right? It helps emphasize your main focal point. This is the back rooms. This is a found footage piece. I'm not going to actually play it all for you, but I can show you certain sections in it. And the thing with the back rooms, this is liminal space horror, and what this video does masterfully is it really gets the idea of repeated areas and repeated elements. It feels too normal, if that makes sense. You have a lot of areas that progress you further into whatever purgatory he's found himself in. Minus the obvious, like you see a lot of these like the square lights up top, and the grids, they automatically go to certain places. They get smaller to show perspective. And you see the walls as you get farther back. Some of them get darker as you go farther away from the lights. The area itself progresses though, right? And he progresses into different areas. He progresses into different portions of this place. I recommend watching this entire video. Almost 10 minutes. It's a good time. We're doing spooky. I'm not necessarily making it scary. This is how I set up scenes, by the way. If I'm not working in a more advanced program, this is how I do it traditionally. If you have actually watched that Backrooms video, I'm thinking of like the loading dock area, which was really cool. Yeah, so what the perspective ruler does is it automatically creates lines in perspective for you if you know where your vanishing point is going to come from, which is like really nice. Yeah, so what I'm doing right now is mostly just planning out this grid because I'm going to paint over it, so it's not going to be permanent. This is a perspective grid. What this does is you need to make sure that these lines, these ones that are right here, you have to make sure that they're different lengths, right? You need to make sure that the distance between them gets progressively bigger as you go outwards away from the vanishing point. That way, you actually create that space, that sense of space.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon.
I honestly just like to draw in the perspective myself. Like, the grid is nice, but I find that, like, if I can just work without a grid and have it lock immediately, it's a lot easier. So I know I spent all that time doing the perspective grid, but I wasn't trying to be too exact with it, because I'm just gonna get rid of most of it anyway, because it being a bit too perfect kills the life of a painting, I find. So I like to kind of disregard it. And this gives them nice, more natural edges by comparison. I was in Medibank to do the first sketch, then I went to CSP to set up the grid, and now we're in Photoshop so I can paint this. So if you hold Shift in Photoshop, you can automatically have your brush snap to the X and Y axis. So it's not like you hold Shift and then you get to click somewhere to create a line. You can just create straight lines automatically. A lot of this rendering is literally just me, like, getting rid of these black lines, which I guess I could have just done if I just got rid of the line art that was there and just filled it in from before, but, like, also, I'm just also making sure that these rectangles aren't too boring. This is taking forever. It feels like nothing's happened because it's just the same thing over and over. This is why you need to be careful of your repetition, because too much repetition can get really boring. So you have to, like, really add your rhythm in there. And ambient occlusion is the shadows that are caused by proximity of things rather than a light source. So if two things are close together, they're automatically not going to be hit by light, so they're going to cause a shadow. There he is. Looks pretty good from afar. So that gives us a sense of depth. Gives us a bit of... This also increases the depth a little bit. There we go. Gives us a bit of the idea that it's moving past in the distance.
If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Join our art community with the links down below if you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education. Become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings. If you enjoyed this video, here's a couple other videos you can check out next.